Hi guys, this is Per Ferdinandsen again, Director of Customer Care. I also have with me Michael Olsen, one of the three founders, and Michael, who invented ClickLearn. And of course, we also have with us Tobias from the support team, and Tracy and Morten as well. Everyone from the support team are here. And this session is specifically a Q&A session with the customer care team. So it's really a session where you can ask us any questions. You can type them in the questions panel or in the chat panel, and then we will grab them from there. So it can be of any technical nature. It can be about our services, of course, or anything really about the product that you'd like to ask us. Yeah, so the floor is open for any questions. So please fire away. And I know that Tobias and Morten and Tracy have probably prepared a couple of nifty little guides and tips and tricks, in case we don't have anyone who wants to open the floor.
Hi, and welcome everybody. Well, as right now we don't have any questions from our lovely audit. Maybe Morten, you and me can talk a little bit about the typical questions we see in our daily routine that a lot of our users asking.
Great idea, Tobias.
Yeah, we definitely can.
Yes. Well, Morten, I start just with the first question then here. And one of the questions I get asked a lot of times is how to make sure that I have a screenshot of my full screen in a recording instead of only a part of it. Maybe you can show us how to do this inside the ClickLearn Studio.
I most certainly can. There are a few ways to do this, actually. So let me just bring up my studio. Now, one of the ways to do this is to use the bookmark feature. That is typically what it's commonly used for, right? So let's say we wanted a full screen of this here. I can then choose to have bookmark. Give it a title if I want. Let's see, same thing. There we are. All right. So this will now give you an entire screenshot of the entire screen, right? Of everything. And yeah, can of course, the text is very small on this screen. I can hardly read it, but it is the entire screen. This is one way to do it. Another way that you could have this done would be, let's grab the same one here, is that you could add it to a group. And in the group, we can just say, all right, I want it to crop to the entire screen. Again, there we are. So this time is then aligned on the right instead, like this. We have a group with the entire screen. This is another way to do it. A final way to do it could be to use a note. So let's go ahead and add a note, all right? And we'll say, let's just say preferences, okay? And we'll grab a picture here. Okay, here is a nice picture. So here we have then the note and then the picture. You can also choose to have it aligned left and right by using the placement to the left here. Then you have, for example, the screenshot over here.
And this, Morten, also answers a second question that I really often get, because the last step you showed us is also a way to insert an external picture that you have taken, or you have somewhere else that you would like to add to your material, right?
Exactly. Often people do this if they want to demonstrate how to save a file how to maybe upload a document or save a file and they don't necessarily want to record that part of the process using ClickLearn. They just want a screenshot of it because that is sufficient for them. Then they can use this feature.
Thank you very much, Morten. By the way, we got the first question also from our audit. It's Mike who's asking how we can manage multiple projects and workspaces inside ClickLearn Studio. Maybe you can also show us this.
Definitely, I definitely can. Let me just go ahead and shut all this down so we have a clean. Click on here. No. Here we go. All right. So projects. You can use the project filter. I love this. I made a project filter just for today called 2020 Conference. So what you can do is that you can say, well, this recording down here, you can just right click it, say properties, and you can say, okay, I want to assign this to something else. Then you can type the new name of your 2021 conference. There we go. And then that will be part of that. It's going to vanish from the list now, right? So now we have something called 2021 conference, and it's only going to have this recording on here. You can of course also select multiples. So if I want to put these somewhere else, properties, and I can then assign it to either another filter, just type in the name. And also if I've accidentally chosen the wrong connector when I started recording because I want it to be organized differently, I can also change it up here. So if this was IFS 10 recordings, I could go ahead and move those over, right? There is one more way to work with this, and that is to use the recording list path. You can change that out here in the troubleshoot menu. There is something called path for recording lists, and this just tells you where your recording lists are loaded from. Really, the recording list is just an HTML file which indexes all your recordings with all their metadata as well. So their unique ID as well as who made them, right? And you can just have multiple lists lying around wherever you want. And choose them directly from here, and you can just type in the path if you had one.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Can you talk a little bit about different workspaces, because that is the second part of Mike's question?
Yes. So if you navigate to tools and preferences, tools and workspaces, here you can choose your which workspaces you want to work with. And you can have as many as you please in ClickLearn Studio. The workspaces are recognizable because of their CLWX extension. So that has a W for workspace. And you can just go ahead and create a new one. You can remove them, do whatever you want. So that's how you add additional workspaces. And then every single workspace, if you navigate to tools, preferences, template, every single workspace you can recognize with a W. This stands for workspace. It's not a W drive, it stands for workspace. And then you have the workspace name. In my case, it's called workspace v4. And then I have multiple templates in that single workspace file. So these are all different recording templates I have. I think there are around 8 of them, 8 or 9 or something. And yeah, so depending on how I want my content formed, I can just choose another recording template, right? And the same goes, of course, for book and shelf.
Thank you very much, Morten. And somebody else Carrie is asking if there is a way to crop resize screenshots in a step that is not group. For example, sometimes in a new window opens, she only wants to show the window in a step without showing overlap of windows behind it.
If you wish to get around the standard crop, then I suggest that you either change it in your workspace template, so to change the crop for all your screens, or if you really specifically want to show a window, then maybe either use the grouping or take a screenshot so that you have free control of how it should be cropped. In the current version of ClickLearn, you can't control every single step's cropping size. And that is simply just to make sure that everything is aligned and has the exact same cropping size, no matter who made it. And yeah, it minimizes the amount of effort you need to put into to your after editing.
Thank you very much, Morten, and I hope, Carrie, that this answers your questions so far. We don't have any questions right now further, or more questions from the audit. So one question I'm getting a lot of times, and maybe we can talk about that, is also how to use ClickLearn in a virtual environment, for example, like Citrix. Is there special requirements? What has to be done, and is it possible to do so?
Right. So if you're using ClickLearn in Citrix, for example, typically you're not permitted to run the Click1 version of ClickLearn. So you would need the MSI installation package deployed on the server by a Citrix farm administrator. The package is available directly here. This link will always provide you with the latest version of ClickLearn Studio, and they can just deploy that from their from a deployment server, for example. And there are a few more things, of course. The workspace you went through, you would want to make sure that is added. And also, there is a folder on your computer, and or in your Citrix case, on the Citrix specific Citrix desktop. Let me just open that up. It's in the program data folder, and it's called ClickLearn. In this folder, you have the Google Chrome native messaging host application, for example. ClickLearn uses this when you record on Google Chrome, and allows Google Chrome's extension for ClickLearn to communicate with the recording process and record whatever you're doing in Chrome. And you have the ClickLearn configuration, so stuff like which templates you've selected, and what workspace you've loaded, and your colors, and your project filters, and all this stuff is stored in here. Then you have your ClickLearn file list, we touched upon earlier. So the ClickLearn file list contains a link to all the different files that you have open in ClickLearn Studio, and your global replay, which is your global replay repository for different values you're using in your either your automated process testing, etc. And then you have your voice data. So when you do a production of a specific audio string, it will actually store, it will give that string a unique ID and store it here. So next time you produce it, if you haven't changed anything, it will just grab this file, and it will lessen the time it takes for you to produce using ClickLearn Studio. If you produce the same recording and you only change like a few steps or whatever, and a lot of them remain the same, right? So you'll need access to this folder. And the way that's done is that your admin typically will go to the properties of the folder, go to security, and go ahead and click on edit. And then we want to add something. We want to add the authenticated users group. That means that anyone from the domain that is an authenticated user on that domain will be allowed to edit this folder, which includes you. So we'll give the authenticated users just modify access. That's fine. They don't necessarily need full control, but they do need modify. And the reason they need modify is, of course, so they can make changes to the files in here, like updating the configuration file or adding stuff to the file list, etc. So that's one thing they may want to remember.
Okay. Well, so to summarize this, first of all, the answer to the question, yes, of course, you can use ClickLearn in a virtual environment. You have to be aware that the users have the right access, and you need to install the MSI package of ClickLearn Studio and run that in the same instance as the application you would like to record, right, Morten?
That's right. And there is actually one more thing. So when you run it on a Citrix environment, so let's say that you've installed it for all users as an MSI installation package, and you have multiple users on the same server. The folder on that we just looked at is stored. It's not stored in a unique location to each user. So everyone would be looking at the same ClickLearn file list on a Citrix server. So what you would maybe like to do, unless you want everyone to look at the same recordings and potentially change or alter each other's recordings, if you don't want that to happen, then you can go to Tools, Preferences, Troubleshoot, And path for recording list, you will want to change that. What you could do here is you could put in percentage, and I think it's called user profile, percentage, and then / documents, for example. That will ensure that all the that the recording file list for each unique user is stored on their unique user profile, right? So so yeah, whenever they sign on to the server, it'll be stored in their personal documents folder, whatever they do. Just the reference and the index of their files, not the files themselves. The files themselves could be stored on a preferably on a network share, so they can choose to share them with their colleagues, or by other means somewhere which is accessible for others if they wish for that to be the case, right? So that's another little twist for the Citrix part.
Thank you very much, Morten. We have another question from Carrie, and she's asking about if you can talk a little bit about the difference between the writer and the developer mode.
Definitely. So let's go ahead and pop into a recording somewhere. Let's go for this one here. So the writer role is it's your go-to role because it's easy to what's it called? You know, there's not too many options there that's cluttering the user interface, and it's just when you double-click a step, you have what you need, right? You can turn off the instruction, the thumbnail, change the text. You can yeah, you can change the cropping of the thumbnail here, things like that. So you pretty much just have what you need to do effective writing. The developer role here, if you're running on a laptop, for example, that doesn't have a high resolution display attached, you may be limited in this window where you have to, it will typically look something like that, and you have to scroll a lot to get all the options here. So in the developer role, you have the options from all the roles available to you. So the video role, you see, that's why you see video options in here suddenly. That's because the developer role has everything. It does have some unique things, which are the text and the tooltip and the unique ID. You may want to be referring to those now and then in your editing. So yeah, that's pretty much the difference. And a lot of the stuff you have in the right-click menu, I can do that in a second, you have available here as well. So if you accidentally use the left click here, you could change that to a double click or move the mouse to. You can also add other things like, you know, if you're selecting multiple items on a list, you can have the control held at the same time. Let's just click OK on that. It's now going to say press and hold control and then click on this item here as if we were selecting something, right? That's available through the right-click menu as well. So yeah, that's pretty much the difference, I would say. Typically, I just default to the writer role because the other one has too many things. It's cluttered, and I only use it when I need it. If I really need to edit something in there.
Okay. Thank you very much, Morten. We have a question from Taylor, and he is asking that he knows when using Google Chrome in incognito mode, and doing recordings, the clicks, the recordings do not recognize the clicks, and it's needed to edit manually the thumbnails in the thumbnail editor. Is there any way to correct this when using Google Chrome in the incognito mode?
So the problem with the incognito mode, if just let me open up my Chrome here. So what you see here is that you see the ClickLearn extension running here, right? And that is required for ClickLearn using the native messaging host I showed you earlier to communicate and to talk together. When you run the incognito tabs, I don't think the extensions are running, and so effectively the Chrome extension is quote unquote not installed when you're using incognito mode, and that's why your recordings look like a mess and requires a lot of after editing, and you may have issues using your replays and stuff like that on your recordings. I think maybe you can enable the extension incognito.
Yes. But also the incognito mode, as the incognito mode has a lot of limitations due to the fact that it wants to keep you incognito, causes a lot of problems with the information ClickLearn Studio needs to identify where you have been clicking, the IDs of the buttons and so on. So the clear recommendation here, Taylor, is really to use it while not inside the incognito mode. There is some technical limitations behind that.
Yeah, while it is an option to do so here, you can say allow incognito. Yeah, I mean, you can of course try to enable that, but I'm not sure that it works fully, because I think incognito really locks down a lot of parts of to make it extra secure, right? So exactly. I think that may be what you're experiencing. What you can do instead is, if you want your user interface to be clean, you can run Chrome as another user using a shortcut. So you have like an extra user you can run it as, which totally changes everything about how Chrome looks. You can customize it specifically for that user, or you can run it using a command line going after that specific page you're gonna record. That will then completely hide the UI of Chrome, and yeah, run it in sort of a full screen mode, an application mode, I would call it. So it looks like it's an actual application that is running, which is just your web browser.
Thank you very much, Morten. For now, I can't see any other questions from our audit. So I would like to go on with a question that is also based on a lot of questions we get here in the customer care and support, and that is about customization. So a lot of times you're creating shelves and books, and we have this nice automatic solution that that icon is assigned to it when you're producing and publish it. But a lot of times people would like to have customized it or changing the icon. Can you maybe show us how to do that?
Yeah, for sure. Let me just bring up Studio again. So, for example, on this book I have down here, my Click on How-To book. For this one, I've specified that any icons in this book should look like a question mark. I can do that in Tools, Preferences, and when I go to Appearance, here I can choose which icon I want used. Now, by default, ClickLearn will look at the title of the book, and it will find one of these applicable icons that it thinks it should use. Now, when you do a translation of the title, if you translate to another language, maybe ClickLearn, the translated word might actually be referring to another icon. So if you do multi-language portals, I would suggest that you choose the icon yourself. So you ensure that they're consistent across your different layers of languages on all your portals, right? So the Spanish one suddenly doesn't use this icon instead. You can also add your own icons in the template, and you can then choose them down here. There'll be additional icons down here if you do so. And of course, you can, when you do your own icons, you can also choose ones that are in color. So you can make it a little bit more colorful.
Yes, thank you very much, Morten. Maybe this is an idea for your next video on Morten's Corner, how to add personal icons or your own icons.
I actually have a video on that already on Morten's Corner.
Okay. Okay. Well, I don't see any other questions from our audit. Please ask us. We are here to answer your questions, of course. But in the meantime, I have maybe also something else. Once a while, I can see that when our users installing ClickLearn Studio, security software or security applications are blocking our installation or even the recording process. Can you show us how to troubleshoot that and get it up and running?
Definitely. I see sometimes that when people run the click once, they will get an error saying that it's not allowed to communicate with a specific web address, which is our server where we're hosting the Click Once application. So the security software is actually blocking the Click Once completely. What you can do in that case is that you can go and download our MSI installation package, like we just touched upon in the part where we talked about Citrix. It's available here. So that's for the installation of the software itself. Now, there is one more thing, and that is sometimes the recording process itself is being blocked by the security software. The security software detects an application running, which is recording the user actions. And sometimes that is just either being blocked or straight up quarantining the process as considered a virus, like you would quarantine a virus. Now, the recording process you want to look after is, let me just find it here. Let's see here, studio. All right, so if I scroll down a bit, here we go. CL record assist, CL record assist 64. So these two, either they are completely missing from the ClickLearn folder, and that's typically when they're quarantined, that they are removed and put into an antiviral vault somewhere, right? All that is straight up being blocked. So you would need them unquarantined by your IT and likely also whitelisted so that the recording process is able to run. Sometimes you'll get an error regarding that says that it cannot find this file. That's if it's been removed. And other times it will just not record because it's been blocked. So it manifests itself a few different ways, but that's definitely something to look for on highly secure systems, at least.
Yes, thank you very much, Morten. We have a question also from our audit again, and Troy is asking, when a recording is edited, what are the best steps to update the web page view? Do you have to publish the recording, then the book, then the shelf, or just the recording?
Right, I'm glad you asked. So let's say you have a, let's say you have your portal. Here is a portal. This portal contains one book. And this book contains, this is the book, so here it contains 2 recordings. So let's say I made changes to this recording here, how to change the voice rate. It's up here, right? So if I made a change to that, I don't need to produce one at a time. What I do is I'll just produce and publish the shelf again. The shelf will produce everything it contains, which means it will produce all the books and all recordings again. Also, if you do a change to a recording, you will need to, if you want to update your documentation, as ClickLearn Studio works right now, you will need to produce and publish the entire shelf, or produce it and publish it if you use the ClickLearn Cloud, or deploy it to whatever hosting solution you're using, if a web server or whatever you're using. And that is to make sure that the whole index and the whole index of the recording is updated. So kind of like we have here, right, where you have your search, and you can search for various things. Let's see what happens to search for record. It will say here are all the words it finds, and here are all the recordings and the books in which they reside, right? So all this kind of, it's like a huge website that has to be maintained. That is the reason you need to produce the highest level, but you only need to produce the highest level. You don't need to do one at a time. So just let it rip overnight, and you could, if it's a huge one.
Yes. So thank you for this, Morten, and and for your nice explanation. We also have another question here. When you have recorded a process and you are editing the steps, how do you get rid of the ghost balloon that is from your mouse click and sitting just under the red box outline?
1 second, let me just open that question up.
I think it's referring to the hotspot. When you've been editing in the thumbnail, you have this little hotspot where you click the mouse the first time. You remember?
No.
If you open a recording, and a step, and go to the thumbnail editor, and maybe Vendor, you can write us in the chat here in the questions if we are on the right one. Are you referring to this little red dot inside the red square here that we are just see on Morten's screen? Is it that you're asking for? Yes, that's obviously what she's referring to, because I see that she wrote back, I mean.
All right. No. Yeah, this is kind of to tell you where you click with the mouse.
Okay, wait a sec, there's some more information. I mean, if you open a recording, the steps are on the right-hand side. Yes, that's right. The red boxes shows, yeah. Often there's a balloon under the record box. That's captured the field, and that is captured the field the mouse has hovered on.
Yeah, okay, I get it. I get it. All right.
Okay.
So what you're referring to is kind of the mouse over, right? Like this. You see, I have a mouse over additional, and there is a little tooltip coming up saying additional. I think that may be what you mean. The same with group, stuff like that.
Yes.
All right.
That's
so
probably.
Okay, cool. What you can do is that when you record your process, you cannot do it fast enough for ClickLearn not to pick it up, but the replay can. So when you've done recorded your process and you've made it ready for replay, I suggest you just you let the replay run, because the replay is going to do it so fast that the tooltips and these pop-ups and shadows and all this will be removed. So that replay will take care of that for you if you're recording on a system that is eligible for replay.
Yes, thank you very much, Morten, for this nice explanation. And I hope, Wanda, this answered also your question. And yes, thank you for the feedback. Well, let's see if we have any other questions from our audit here. As far as I can see, that is not the case right now. Well, Morten, then maybe you can talk a little bit about what is a template doing and how to handle with it, and tell us a little bit about it, because that is also a question we're getting quite often. What is a template? What is it made for? Why we have that?
Right.
And for example, how to edit a template entry when you are not lucky, when you are not as a user happy with what the ClickLearn Studio has as an outcome in the text, how to edit that for a specific step, for example.
All right. Yep. So when you have loaded up the workspace from your organization, the workspace ensures that whoever records and whoever produces from within your organization, everything looks the same and is all aligned. It has the same cropping size on the screens. It uses the same fonts, the same colors, the same logos. So you don't need to do so much editing yourself. It also maintains which voice is being used and in which way the words are being spoken by the voice. So everything, again, is aligned. Now, in Tools, Preferences, and Template, you can mess around with all your different workspaces. And when you edit that, this is a recording template. This is the most frequently used, because that is how the work instructions themselves will look. So this will kind of tell you how everything is phrased. So if we go into preferences here, this is where I put my logo and the colors. And if I have a Word and PowerPoint template, I'll add them here. I can also have multi-language. So if I have if I'm producing in both English and Spanish, and I also have a specific Spanish template, for example, that uses like Spanish metadata. If I have something saying, who created it and what was the release date, I can have that in Spanish as well, right? So I can just click here and I can have all my different languages uniquely uniquely uploaded in here. In the instructions tab, you can choose your thumbnail crop. So if you're recording on a system that is very spaced out, like for example, some web-based systems, they're really spaced out all over the screen. So you have some stuff up here and you have something over there. And if the crop is just this tiny box here, it's not really gonna cut it to give you an idea of whereabouts on the screen you are when you look at your thumbnail. Then you can increase the size here. And a lot of people do that for some web-based systems. You can also choose a few other items, like where to put the grouping numbers on the frames around your grouped items. You can change that. You can also change which voice is being used for the videos, and you can choose the intro, outro video pictures here. You can choose another cursor and all this kind of things. You can also have the virtual assistant in the video instead of the cursor. He will then, he or she, depending on your mascot, will then pop up and show you what to do on screen. And here's the assist this is a general assist. Other things you can choose with decide with the template. Let me just go into something random here. So if I'm using a mouse click, it will say click on, and it will say the ribbon group because I'm clicking on a ribbon group, and then it will find the value that is specified for %2. That is typically the field name. If I don't like it to say ribbon group, I want it to say the ribbon item. Now, if I save this, all of the recordings I produced using this template, all past, present, and future recordings in the entire organization, they will then say the ribbon item for this specific action used in Microsoft Dynamics NAV 2015 for this control here, right? So you can kind of choose how the automated text is being altered in ClickLearn. What else can you do with the template? You can of course change the general design as well. You can choose the colors here for the web view, and you can do a lot of design things here. If you have an in-house designer, they can have a field day looking at all this code. Or if you have something specific you want to mess around with, you can always talk to us, and we can try to help you the best we can. And I've seen some very interesting portals out there with people doing modifications for sure.
Thank you for this, Morten. So basically, the template can control a lot of things inside ClickLearn Studio and make sure you can highly customize also the output of the ClickLearn Studio. So it also fits the corporate identity and everything of our clients, right?
Certainly.
Cool. Very nice. I just looking and checking if we have other questions from our audit. Right now, I can't see anything in there. So, Morten, have you maybe in mind that you would like to present, also based on your experience about the questions we're getting day by day?
Yeah, I've been.
I can, for example, think about, can you talk a little bit about collaboration with different authors? So if you have a team of 3 or 5 or 6 or even more authors collaborate on the different recordings, can you talk a little bit about how to organize it with the files, the recording files and so on in a way of best practice, or what is your experience, what is working best?
Definitely. What I would typically recommend is that people use a file share to store the recordings on if they are going to be collaborating with others. So often you will have a subject matter expert of some kind, just they know that process really well, and that's what they spend their time on. So they will use ClickLearn Studio to just edit that process that they know, and then someone else will scoop up that recording and do all the editing, do the chapters, make groups, and make it look all nice, maybe change around some thumbnails and all this kind of stuff, right? If you want to share that with others, what they can do is you can go ahead and go to File and Open, and you can navigate to your network share and just go ahead and open the recording file. So I have some files in here. I think they're all open though, but yeah, if I want to open that file, you go ahead. This is from my network share. Someone else made it, and they will then appear in here. Here is my file then. Other ways to collaborate could be to, let's say we're working on a specific project in the company, and we want to share all our recordings. I want to be able to see all the recordings that Tobias has made, for example. So what I can then use is that I can use the path recording list. If I store that on a network share too, let's pretend I have a Z drive which is shared, and we have a folder on there called ClickLearn, and then we have a project called Project A. Then all the files from Project A will automatically be loaded, and I can just change this up. That will then change my entire ClickLearn file list to be loaded in like that. So this path for recording list, that's just a reference of where all the recordings are loaded from, who made them, and all the metadata, as well as a project filter. So in addition to using the path to recording list, you can also choose to use the project filtering. The project filter will, as you can see, I've made one here for my 2020 conference here. You can use that to display exactly what you want in your main window. For example, I have the 2021 conference project filter here. There's just one recording ready. You can also untoggle it. That will just show you everything in your ClickLearn Studio. That's a bit excessive right now, so we'll go ahead and toggle it back on. So there's a few ways to work with others like this.
Thank you very much, Morten. And we have right now a couple of more questions from our audit. Thank you for this. One of this is from Mike, and he's asking if the ClickLearn Assist can be deployed in CE without navigating through the portal.
Yeah, I can try and answer that. Then Morten can catch his breath. So when we talk about ClickLearn Assist and the way that we put it into customer engagement, the reason for that is to get it inside the system itself. It also means that it doesn't require any kind of additional installation. However, the customer engagement system are limited at some points. There is another way to answer the question, and that is to use our ClickLearn Assist extension to Google Chrome. But that to some is also an issue, because you need to make sure that all of your end users, of course, have that extension installed then. That allows them to log in to the ClickLearn Assist extension, and that will then determine what kind of assist repository that they, or learning portal, so to speak, that they need to access. Then you will have it available without importing the solution into customer engagement.
Thank you very much, Michael. A question maybe more to Per in here. Mohammed is asking if the recording of the session will be provided.
Yeah, I can also answer that.
Okay.
All sessions are recorded and they will be provided for you. We need a little bit of time after the conference to collect all of this together and make it available to you, but you will definitely get access to it.
Fantastic. Michael, and one more question that is definitely in your domain here comes from Ariane. And the question is, will be there additional voices available for those who cannot work in the cloud? I have to work offline in the offline version of ClickLearn, and there's only 1 or 2 robotic voices available. Will there be more available in the offline version?
Yeah, so I have a counter question for that, and that is, do you have any times where you are online to ClickLearn? The reason for that counter question is that you don't need to be online all the time, only at the point in time where you produce the content. When it has been produced, it has created all of the audio files needed, and that means that you can provide the learning content, your full portal, wherever you want afterwards. And to clarify this, I know that you have local voices in your Windows system. They are robotic. They are not natural sounding. They are not the digital voices that we recommend. And they're also not, due to license restrictions, actually allowed to be used if you, for example, take and upload a video to YouTube or whatever. Normally voices are licensed. The beauty of the way that we do it in the cloud version for the voice part is that it is such a low price, and it allows you free distribution right of the produced audio part within your company. So I cannot provide you with the local voices. We don't sell voices, but we rely on third-party vendors like Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and so forth to give you the best possible voice experience in your produced content.
Mm-hmm. There's also another question regarding voices, and this is about will we be able to record our own voices? Maybe we can talk about that a little bit.
Yes, it's already possible. I do not recommend it, but I think Morten can, while I'm talking, go into a recording, so we can actually see if he shifts to the video role. When you edit a recording and are in the video role, if you open up a step, you can actually record your custom audio. You can choose to take that from audio files that you have stored from another product where you have done your recording of that, or you can record it from inside ClickLearn itself. The reason why I don't recommend it is that it's so difficult to maintain, right? So if you have changes in your step, if you lose the author in your company that has done audio recording on some of the content, you all of a sudden find yourself with a mixed content of different narrators in the learning portal that you provide to your end users. But it is possible to do your custom audio.
Yes. The reason why Stephanie is asking this is that she says that due to the accents and different dialogues, it can be challenges to have only the robotic voices. So that's why this question came up.
Yeah, and I totally agree. But I think that you know, when I first started with the automated voiceover for ClickLearn many years ago, to give you an example, it would cost you know 10 times more than the ClickLearn product for a customer to buy a voice in their language, right? In order to be able to produce something that was natural sounding. And even at that time, it was more robotic than today. When you look at how things evolve around these voices, it comes into Google Home, in our mobile phones and so forth, and they're becoming more and more natural sounding. So time is working for us here. And the good thing is that when new voices appear, they will also become part of what ClickLearn allows you to select from and thereby produce your content. So it's constantly evolving, it's constantly improving, and you benefit from this simply by going in and reproducing your content.
Definitely. And as we don't have another question right now in the audit, maybe while we are talking about language and speech and so on, Morten, maybe also you can show us a little bit about the speech editor.
Yeah, I definitely can. I was actually just on my way in to show how many voices we have available, just for fun. So currently in English, we have 82 different voices available and 21 German voices and so forth. So there is a lot to choose from with different accents, both Americans, and there are some British ones, there's some Welsh ones, there is Irish, there's all kinds of countries that where it affects this. And yeah, they're pretty cool. They're pretty cool for sure. Furthermore, you can specify, if you have different notes, for example, you can specify which voice should read that note. So if you were a little bit sneaky here, you could say that this should be read by Matthew, and then you'd have another note down here by being read by someone else. You can have kind of like a dialogue where someone is reading something and then there's another voice taking over to keep it a little bit more dynamic and a little bit more entertaining. And it doesn't take much effort to set up. It's just changing that little voice on the notes here and there. So the speech editor itself, while I am unable to demo it because you cannot hear my audio, I can just tell you sort of how it works. So we circle back to the templating system, then all your speech editor settings will be written into your corporate template. So if you've chosen that in your organization, when it reads reassignment, it should then say reassignment with kind of a pause in between. That's what has been done here. So if you remove that what's it called, that dash, what's it called in English, a dash? Yeah. If you remove that, it's gonna say it quite quickly, like reassignment. So you can sort of kind of put more pressure on things and space it out more. Like, for example, IT, instead of saying it's gonna say IT, things like that. So you can change things around about how things are phrased. Yeah. You can have a lot of fun.
Yeah, and as Morten mentions here, you know, this allows you, if the digital voice currently doesn't really know that shortened thing that you have or pronouncing it correctly, you can actually tweak it in here once and for all, and that means every single recording that you produce will go through this speech editor and make sure to transform the word or wording that you have before it produces the audio for it. So that allows you to tweak the pronunciation, and it also allows you to tweak additional pauses that you want in specific areas.
This is also something that our next that is some of our next questions here. It's about natural pause in a voice, how to add that the breathing pause, and I know there is also some options for this.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, so when we think about when you write a note, let's say you write a very long paragraph of text. So the best thing that you can do is, of course, to remember the grammatics about when do you need to do commas, so natural pauses that you have. And of course, behind the digital voices that we have here, it's not just you know, clips of audio. There's actually some artificial intelligence behind a lot of the voices that the vendors are providing. So that allows them to improve on how they deliver the natural pauses within this. Some of the examples are already active within ClickLearn. All of the AP voices that comes from Amazon, we already allow Amazon voices to do natural breath for this when you produce the content using those voices, because the voices have that built into them. So that means, like, when we talk and talk and talk, sometimes we just need to take a breath, and you can also hear it when we talk, that we do a short breath at some points in time. And that, if you try that out in ClickLearn Studio with the AP voices, you will actually be able to hear that at some points. If you forget to do your comments and stuff like that, it will actually do that at some point. Say, now I've really spoken so many words, now I need to take a breath. And this constantly evolves over time. So I'm not saying that it's a perfect world today with the digital voices, but it's constantly improving.
Thank you very much for this inside view of what's going on also with the voices there for both of you. We have another question on a totally different topic, and that is asking about, currently we have to edit steps on the recording to ensure the bold text related to the entity you clicked on stays intact for further editing needs to be replaced by %1 or %3 manually. Is there a better way to manage this?
I think it's a little bit difficult to reply on directly here, but I would definitely recommend that you simply just reach out to our brilliant support team, give them an example, and I'm quite sure that they will guide you accordingly.
Super. Yes, and we are looking forward for your report request then, and helping you with that, right, Morten?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's per function that you can specify this, but let's look at it specifically for your case scenario, because yeah, it can be a very individual thing.
Yes, we also got a nice feedback, and I would like to share it. Loving your product. Thank you for this. This means a lot of us when we get this kind of feedback. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
We still have a couple of minutes left. I don't see any other questions right now in there. Maybe, Morten, you can talk a bit something about user tracking. That's also a question we're getting quite often in the support and customer care team. So to talk a little bit about what is possible there. how can we track the success of using ClickLearn produced material?
Of course. So if you go to your portal, in here you can set up a tracking ID. When you can tie this tracking ID to a specific shelf. So you just add a tracking ID up here, give it a name, and we can call it conference 2020 tracking. Save that. And it's down here now. It's generated a unique ID. This is specifically for the ClickLearn Cloud. You can also use tracking in Google Analytics. You can use it in SharePoint. So yeah, there are a few options available. Now, if you go into your shelf, let's grab this shelf here. Tools, Preferences, Tracking, and here you go. Here you can kind of see the different tracking IDs you have. Now we just generate a new tracking ID. So let's go ahead and slap that in here. I didn't get to copy the ID. That's fine. We'll just do it again. Click there. And here we go. So when I produce and publish this shelf now, all the interactions done on a web-based interface for this shelf, it will be tracked. And the tracking looks as follows. So if we go into our dashboard, this is an OData feed that we have built our own dashboard around. Now, there are a lot more things tracked in here than what you see on the screen currently, but this is what we chose to represent. If you want the full feed with all the different data, you can use Excel to import it into using the OData feed in Excel, and you can build your own pivot tables and your own dashboards and your own whatever you want. So that's pretty nifty. Now, this will take a bit of time to load because we have a lot of tracking IDs. So let's just, oh, there are none selected. Okay, let's check them all. Let's see.
Yes, and while it is loading, we got also another question regarding tracking about the Google Analytics tracking. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, we definitely can. So part of the tracking here will show you from where in the world it is, who did what, which are your top books, for example. Here we have some of the ratings, some of the personalized feedback, and what people are searching for. So this is just the standard tracking that we have available right here. Okay, the Google Analytics. Personally, I do not have that much experience with Google Analytics. Maybe you,
let me help you.
Michael can. Thank you.
Yeah, let me help you. So if you can just go into where you set in your tracking code on that shelf before. It's fairly easy to explain that if you take the question mark to the right, so this basically shows that if you want to use Google Analytics, you need to sign up for Google Analytics on Google side, right? So I'm sorry, we're not the ones that can train you in Google Analytics, but basically when you sign up for that program, you are able to generate a tracking code in Google Analytics. That means instead of us tracking the data to SharePoint or to the ClickLearn clouds, we will track it into Google Analytics. That means like you have a web page that you assign to Google Analytics that is completely out of ClickLearn content, that will work in the same way. So you will know every page hit that people do in the Google Analytics. They also have some different action codes. So normally you have a page view. What ClickLearn does is when you start a video, when the video reaches a certain point, a certain step, if it's a try me video, for example, it also tracks that back to Google Analytics. So you can use that instead to collect your data. I think that's what I have to say right now about the Google Analytics, at least.
Thank you very much, Michael. One question we got here also from vendor is, just a sec. There it is. Sorry. When creating recordings, and if you edit the process steps using your own company terminology, how difficult will it to be update training material? Should we upgrade to another version of CRM and need to update material?
Yeah, so if you do a recording and you know, so normally when you record, we of course, for the author that does the recording, we ensure that you do every single step. So if you miss steps in between, if you choose afterwards to go in and edit and say, I feel that these 7 steps are not important, then you will have an issue when you come to the upgrade. So when we try to help you to replay the process on the new version of CRM, and you have deleted the 7 steps, then it might not be able to replay the process for you. So our recommendation is, of course, that when you think about documentation, you can split it up in different phases. One phase is to record this, make sure to deliver your learning portal. We see that in a lot of customers, right? You should have done this yesterday. You need to deliver the documentation. But now you come to the upgrade process. So you can take it in phase 2 and say, okay, someone has messed up here. So you need to provide what is not there right now in order for the process to be replayed. But when it's replayable, it's an easy upgrade, right? So, but it might depend on the timing in your projects when to do this. So if you can keep it strict, then you will have an easy upgrade path.
Yes, thank you very much. We are running out of time. I would like to ask one follow-up question. I would like to take it, even we are a little bit over, and that is regarding the tracking again. If it's a one or the other decision, or can there be a tracking, for example, on Google Analytics and the portal?
The answer is actually yes, but it requires us to do a customization in your corporate template to provide the tracking in both places, but it would be doable, right? But it requires customization in the template part.
Okay. Well, as I said, we are run out of time. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Morten. And of course, a big thank you to all our guests here. And if you have any other questions with the hub, contact us in the support team, and we would like to help you and hear from you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.